houses. McCall peered down the buildings, glimpsing slivers of the opposing shore, the Vancouver city skyline glistening against the choppy water. A wet night, windy, poor visibility. A little over a year, he lied, staring at the sea. Elsie's knuckles turned white around the steering wheel. You're older than the other guys. That's why I chose you. McCall still watched the water. Most of the boys on that block are in their teens. The youngest is 13. Elsie said nothing. The car did not slow. Georgia Street curved right, swinging into Stanley Park. They passed the long dock and Tudor-style office of the Vancouver Rowing Club, and between the road and rough stone seawall, McCall observed late-night joggers and bicyclists braving the rain on the paved pedestrian trail. Beyond them, across the harbor, the full expanse of the downtown core perched like a neon gem on the water's edge, trailing light against the waves. Elsie drove past the first parking lot, but edged into the second. 8 totem poles filled the border of a landscaped garden, which was nothing but shadows in the evening dark. 10 o'clock at night, and the parking lot was mostly empty. McCall saw a few steamy windows. Elsie parked the car in the most isolated spot, near the totems. McCall sat quietly, waiting, staring at the sea. The engine ticked. Rain pattered against the windshield. I don't know if I can go through with this, Elsie said. All right, McCall replied, though her feelings changed nothing. Elsie let go of the steering wheel and stared at him. He stared back. She could not hold his gaze and ducked her chin, brushing long hair out of her face. I'm sorry, she mumbled, and then, softer, why do you do this? Why did you? McCall wondered, but stayed silent. He did not want to know this woman. He did not want to be her friend. He did not want to understand what kind of pain would drive someone like her to risk life and limb to pick a stranger off the street and pay for sex. A death wish? A kind of suicide watch? Only slower, harsher. Michael? Elsie whispered, hesitantly. McCall closed his eyes. The bracelet burned against his wrist, and the sensation clawed up his arm into his throat, stirring the old monster to life. McCall felt a surge of hate so profound he almost choked on it, struggling against himself, trying to center his heart with memories of his old life, fighting with all his strength to swallow the compulsion rising hard and terrible inside his mouth. He heard a woman laugh, somewhere distant in his mind, a fine, high tinkle of joviality, and he bit back a scream. Run, he thought at Elsie, pressing his head against the cold window. Run now, please. But she was no mind reader. He heard her body shift, listened to cloth rub, held his breath. A moment later, Elsie touched his shoulder. Light. It was the faintest brush of her fingertips, though to McCall it felt like a gun blast inside his heart, the crash of some clumsy human fist. Pain, a lot of it, followed by that terrible compulsion which forced open his jaw, breath pushing hard and ragged from his lungs. Elsie gasped. McCall grabbed her wrist. His hand burned, but he did not let go. Could not, though he tried. He stared into her startled eyes, her dark and frightened eyes, and leaned so close he could taste the faint edge of her soul on the brim of her lips. And then he took that soul with nothing but a song. Afterward, if he had been close to a knife, he would have tried to cut off his hand. Again. A hard slash to the wrist, right above the bracelet. Futile, a poor man's defiance, but all he had. Instead, McCall sat and held Elsie in his arms, suffering through the pain of her touch. Because he understood now, though he wished otherwise, he saw inside her head years of abuse.